Jack Harper leaned back in his chair, staring at the dull gray walls of his workstation aboard the orbital platform EOS-7. The hum of machinery and faint chatter from nearby engineers filled the air, but none of it could drown out the monotony, gnawing at him. For 3 years he had been stuck repairing drones, calibrating sensors, and running diagnostics on equipment that rarely broke down anymore. It wasn't the life he'd dreamed of when he signed up to work among the stars. He sighed and tapped a few keys on his console, bringing up the latest report. Another day, another routine check. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as he debated whether to finish early or stretch the task into something resembling productivity. Just then, a flashing icon appeared in the corner of his screen. A private message notification. Jack frowned. Private messages were rare here. Most communication went through official channels. Curiosity got the better of him, and he opened the message. At first glance, it seemed like gibberish, a string of numbers and symbols, but embedded within was a name, Lana Cruz. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't heard from Lana in years, not since she left EOS-7 under mysterious circumstances. Rumors swirled about her involvement in some unauthorized experiment, though no one knew for sure what happened after she disappeared. The message itself was short but cryptic. Jack, if you're reading this, I need your help. Epsilon 9 holds answers we can't ignore. Meet me at Dock 12 by 2200 hours tonight. Come alone. Jack stared at the words, his mind racing. What kind of trouble had Lana gotten herself into now? And why did she think he'd risk everything to meet her? He glanced around the room, half expecting someone to be watching him, but everyone else was engrossed in their own tasks. Still, unease settled in his chest. Something about this felt off, dangerous even, but he couldn't shake the feeling that ignoring her plea would haunt him. By the time his shift ended, Jack had made up his mind. He grabbed his jacket and headed toward Dock 12, weaving through corridors bustling with technicians and cargo haulers. The station was massive, its labyrinthine structure designed to house thousands of workers, yet tonight it felt eerily quiet. As he approached the designated dock, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Lana. She looked older than he remembered, her once vibrant energy replaced by a hardened edge. Her dark hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her sharp eyes scanned the area before landing on him. "You came," she said, her voice low but steady. "Not much of a choice, was there?" Jack replied, crossing his arms. "What do you want, Lana? Last I heard, you were persona non grata." Lana ignored the jab and gestured toward a small scout vessel parked nearby. "No time for explanations. We need to leave. Now." Jack hesitated, glancing at the ship. It was sleek and compact, clearly built for speed rather than comfort. "Leave? For where? And why should I trust you?" "For Epsilon 9, she said, cutting straight to the point. "There's an artifact down there, an alien relic, that could change everything. Technology so advanced it makes our current systems look like toys. But Novatech is already on its way, and if they get to it first..." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Novatech. The name sent a chill down Jack's spine. They were one of the largest corporate conglomerates in human space, known for their ruthless pursuit of profit and power. If they were interested in this artifact, whatever it was, it had to be big. Too big for someone like him to handle. "This sounds insane," Jack muttered, shaking his head. "Why drag me into this? You know I'm just a glorified mechanic." "You're more than that," Lana shot back, stepping closer. "You've worked on AI systems longer than anyone else here. Your skills are exactly what we need to decode whatever's waiting for us on Epsilon 9. Her words hit a nerve. Jack prided himself on his technical expertise, but he'd always played it safe, sticking to projects sanctioned by the higher-ups. This was different, dangerous, maybe even suicidal. Yet deep down, he felt a spark of excitement he hadn't felt in years. The chance to uncover something groundbreaking, to push the boundaries of what humanity thought possible. It was intoxicating. "What happens if we find it?" he asked finally, his resolve wavering. "What then?" "We stop Novatech from using it against us," Lana said firmly. And maybe, just maybe, we give humanity a fighting chance. Jack exhaled slowly, weighing his options. Staying meant going back to the same old grind, watching others take credit for his work while he faded into obscurity. Leaving meant risking everything, but also the possibility of making a real difference. For better or worse, he realized. He didn't have a choice, not really. Fine, he said at last. But if this goes sideways, don't say I didn't warn you. A flicker of relief crossed Lana's face, and she nodded briskly. Good. Let's move. As they boarded the scout vessel, Jack noticed a third person waiting inside, a man in his late 40s with rugged features and a scar running along his jawline. He introduced himself as Ryan Keller, a former military pilot turned freelancer. Nice to meet you, Jack, Ryan said with a smirk. Hope you're ready for a wild ride. Before Jack could respond, the engines roared to life, and the ship, detached from the docking bay, hurtling into the vastness of space. Through the viewport, Jack watched EOS 7 grow smaller and smaller until it vanished entirely. Ahead lay Epsilon 9, a barren moon orbiting a distant gas giant. Its surface gleamed, faintly under the light of a dying star casting an otherworldly glow. So what exactly are we looking for? Jack asked, breaking the silence. Lana exchanged a glance with Ryan before answering. Something ancient, something powerful. The Vryn left behind traces of their technology all over this sector. If we're lucky, we'll find one of their prototypes, a machine capable of mimicking human intelligence. Jack raised an eyebrow. Mimicking? Like AI? More than that, Lana explained. These machines weren't just programmed, they evolved, adapted. Some believe they were designed to merge with organic beings, creating hybrids with unparalleled abilities. The idea sounded far-fetched, even by sci-fi standards, but Jack couldn't deny the allure. If true, it would revolutionize everything from medicine to warfare. Of course, it also raised countless ethical questions, questions he wasn't sure humanity was ready to answer. For now, though, there was no turning. Jack. Whatever awaited them on Epsilon 9, Jack knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same again. The journey to Epsilon 9 was anything but smooth. From the moment the scout vessel, Shadowhawk, cleared the docking bay of EOS 7, tension filled the cramped cabin like a thick fog. Jack sat in the co-pilot's seat, gripping the armrests as Ryan maneuvered the ship through asteroid fields and patches of cosmic debris. The hum of the engines was constant, but it did little to drown out the unease simmering between the three passengers. Lana had taken up position near the rear of the cockpit, poring over data logs on a handheld tablet. Her expression was unreadable, though Jack noticed her fingers tapping nervously against the screen every so often. Whatever she was hiding, he knew it wasn't good. He glanced at Ryan, who seemed completely focused on flying, his scarred face illuminated by the glow of the control panel. The man exuded confidence, but there was an edge to him, a quiet intensity that made Jack wonder what kind of battles he'd fought before becoming a freelancer. So, Jack began, breaking the silence. How exactly do you two know each other? Ryan smirked without looking away from the viewport. Let's just say we've crossed paths a time or two. Nothing too glamorous? More like nothing legal, Lana muttered under her breath, earning a sharp look from Ryan. Jack raised his hands defensively. Hey, I'm not judging. Just trying to figure out why I'm here instead of back on EOS 7, fixing broken drones. You're here because you're smart, Lana said bluntly, finally looking up from her tablet. And because you hate playing it safe. Admit it, you wouldn't have come if this didn't excite you. Jack opened his mouth to argue but stopped himself. She wasn't wrong. Despite the danger, part of him relished the idea of stepping outside the boundaries of his predictable life. Still, excitement didn't mean blind trust. Fair enough, he said cautiously. But don't expect me to blindly follow orders. If something feels off, I'm speaking up. Good, Ryan interjected. We need someone who can think for themselves. This isn't going to be a walk in the park. As the hours passed, the trio grew more comfortable sharing small talk, though the underlying tension never fully dissipated. Jack learned that Ryan had once served in the military before leaving due to creative differences with his superiors. A vague explanation, that hinted at a troubled past. Lana, on the other hand, remained tight-lipped about her own history, deflecting questions with cryptic remarks about classified projects and corporate espionage. By the time they reached the outer orbit of Epsilon 9, fatigue was starting to set in. The moon loomed ahead, its surface a jagged expanse of ice and rock. It looked desolate, almost lifeless, yet something about it gave Jack an uneasy feeling. Maybe it was the way the light from the distant star reflected off its surface, casting eerie shadows across the landscape. Or maybe it was the faint energy readings pulsing from deep beneath the crust, readings that matched nothing in the database. "All right, listen up," Ryan said, snapping Jack out of his thoughts. "We'll land near the coordinates Lana provided. Once we're on the ground, we stick together. No wandering off, no heroics, got it?" "Got it," Jack replied, though the warning felt unnecessary. There was no way he was venturing into unknown territory alone. Lana nodded, slipping the tablet into a pouch on her belt. The artifact should be close to the surface. Ancient civilizations usually built their structures near natural landmarks, mountains, craters, that sort of thing. We'll start searching from there. "And what happens when we find it?" Jack asked, leaning forward. "Do we just take it? Bring it back to EOS 7? "We assess the situation first," Lana said firmly. "If it's stable, we bring it back. If not..." She trailed off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. Ryan snorted. "If not, we might end up wishing we'd stayed home." The DA. Landing process was rougher than expected. As Shadowhawk descended through Epsilon 9's thin atmosphere, turbulence rocked the ship violently. Alarms blared, and Jack gripped the armrests again, knuckles white. "You sure you know how to fly this thing?" he shouted over the noise. "Relax," Ryan shot back, his hands steady on the controls. "I've landed in worse conditions." Moments later, the ship touched down with a jolt, sending dust swirling around the viewport. When the engines powered down, an eerie silence settled over the cabin. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ryan unbuckled his harness and stood, grabbing a rifle from the storage compartment behind his seat. "Time to see what we're dealing with." Outside, the temperature was brutally cold, forcing them to wear insulated suits equipped with heating elements. Jack adjusted his helmet, the visor displaying vital stats and a map overlay. The air was thin and unbreathable, but the gravity was slightly weaker than Earth's, making movement easier. They trudged across the icy terrain, following Lana's lead as she consulted the tablet. After nearly an hour of walking, they reached a massive crater surrounded by towering cliffs of frozen rock. At its center stood the remnants of an ancient structure, a series of crumbling arches and half-buried walls covered in strange symbols. The sight sent a shiver down Jack's spine. Whoever, or whatever, had built this place had been long gone, yet the sense of their presence lingered. "This is it," Lana whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of awe and fear. "This has to be where the artifact is hidden." They approached cautiously, scanning the area for signs of traps or instability. Jack's eyes darted to every shadow, his imagination conjuring all sorts of dangers lurking in the ruins. But aside from the biting wind and the occasional creak of shifting ice, nothing stirred. Inside the structure, the air felt heavier, almost oppressive. The walls were etched with intricate carvings depicting scenes of beings interacting with machines. Some of the figures appeared humanoid, while others bore features that defied logic: elongated limbs, glowing eyes, and geometric patterns embedded in their skin. Jack couldn't help but marvel at the craftsmanship. Whoever these Vryn were, they possessed knowledge far beyond human comprehension. "Look at this," Lana said, pointing to a pedestal in the middle of the chamber. On top of it rested a crystalline object, roughly the size of a human head. Its surface shimmered with iridescent colors, reacting to even the slightest movement. "That's it. That's the artifact." Jack stepped closer, mesmerized by the object's beauty. "What does it do?" "No idea," Lana admitted. "But if the legends are true, it could hold the key to understanding how the Vryn created their machines, maybe even how they merged biology and technology." Before anyone could touch it, Ryan held up a hand. Hold on. Something doesn't feel right. As if on cue, the ground beneath them trembled. Dust rained down from the ceiling and a low rumble echoed through the chamber. Jack spun around, searching for the source of the disturbance. Then he saw it. A faint glow emanating from cracks in the floor, spreading outward like veins of molten lava. We triggered something, Ryan growled, raising his rifle. Get ready to run. Lana ignored him, her focus entirely on the artifact. Not yet. We need to stabilize it. How do you propose we do that? Jack snapped, panic creeping into his voice. It's glowing brighter by the second. I don't know, Lana shouted back, desperation edging her tone. But if we leave now, everything collapses, including us. Jack hesitated, torn between self-preservation and curiosity. He glanced at Ryan, who looked ready to bolt at any moment. Then he turned back to Lana, who was frantically typing commands into her tablet, trying to interface with the artifact. Against his better judgment, he stayed. The trembling intensified and the glow became almost blinding. Suddenly, the artifact emitted a high-pitched whine, causing pain to shoot through Jack's skull. He clutched his ears, dropping to his knees. Through the haze of agony, he heard Lana yell, "It's unlocking! Brace yourselves!" A burst of energy erupted from the artifact, engulfing the room in a cascade of light and sound. For a brief moment, Jack felt weightless, as if his body had dissolved into pure thought. Images flashed before his eyes, strange landscapes, alien faces, and incomprehensible designs. Then, as quickly as it began, the surge subsided, leaving him gasping for breath. When the dust settled, the artifact lay dormant once more. Its glow dimmed to a faint pulse. Lana sagged against the pedestal, visibly shaken but alive. "Did it work?" she whispered hoarsely. Ryan lowered his weapon, scanning the room for threats. "Looks like it, but we're not out of the woods yet." Jack struggled to his feet, his mind reeling from the experience. Whatever the artifact was, it wasn't just a relic, it was alive in some form or another. And it had shown him glimpses of something vast and unknowable. "Well," he said weakly, "that was intense." Lana managed a shaky laugh. "Welcome to the big leagues, Jack." As they regrouped and prepared to leave the chamber, none of them noticed the faint crackle of static coming from Jack's suit radio. Somewhere far away, someone, or something, was listening. The trio moved quickly through the ruins, eager to put distance between themselves and the artifact. Though it had calmed after its explosive display, none of them trusted it to stay that way. Jack's head still throbbed from the energy surge, and he couldn't shake the images burned into his mind. Visions of alien worlds and strange machines blending seamlessly with living beings. It was like a dream he couldn't fully remember, but one that left him feeling uneasy. As they retraced their steps toward the entrance, Ryan kept glancing over his shoulder, his rifle at the ready. "We need to get out of here before whatever we woke up decides to say hello," he muttered. Lana nodded, clutching her tablet tightly. She hadn't spoken much since the artifact's activation, her focus entirely on analyzing the data streaming in from the device. "Whatever this thing is, it's broadcasting now," she said finally. "I'm picking up signals, not just local either. They're being transmitted across space." Jack frowned. "You mean someone could already know we're here?" "Not just someone," Lana replied grimly. "Novatech has ships equipped with sensors capable of detecting anomalies like this. If they're anywhere near this sector, they'll come running." The thought sent a chill down Jack's spine. He'd heard enough about Novatech to know they weren't the kind of company you wanted showing up uninvited. Their reputation for ruthless efficiency and unethical practices preceded them. If they found out about the artifact and the potential power it held, they wouldn't hesitate to take it by force. "We need to move faster," Ryan said, breaking into a jog. "If we can make it back to Shadowhawk, we might have a shot at getting off this rock before they arrive." They pushed onward, navigating the icy terrain as fast as their suits allowed. The wind howled around them, carrying with it the biting cold of Epsilon 9's atmosphere. Jack's breath fogged up the inside of his helmet, forcing him to adjust the visor repeatedly. His muscles ached from the exertion, but he didn't dare slow down. Every second counted. When they finally reached the scout vessel, relief washed over them, or so they thought. As Ryan climbed into the cockpit to start the engines, an alarm blared, startling everyone. "What's wrong?" Jack asked, his voice tight with panic. Ryan cursed under his breath. "We've got incoming. Multiple ships closing fast." Lana rushed to the viewport, squinting into the distance. Sure enough, several sleek vessels were descending through the atmosphere, their hulls emblazoned with Novatech's logo, a stylized star encircled by gears. "They're here," she said quietly, her tone laced with dread. "How did they find us so quickly?" Jack demanded, pacing nervously. "They must have tracked the artifact's signal," Lana explained. "It wasn't subtle when it activated. We lit up like a beacon." Ryan slammed his fist against the control panel. "Great. Any ideas on how we fight our way out of this? Because I don't think talking will work." "No fighting," Lana said firmly. "We can't win against those odds. Our only chance is to hide." "Hide where?" Jack asked incredulously. "There's nothing out here but ice and rocks." "There's the underground tunnels," Lana countered. "The Vryn built extensive networks beneath the surface. If we can find an entrance, we might be able to lose them." Ryan hesitated, clearly weighing the risks. Finally, he nodded. "All right, let's do it. But if this goes sideways, don't blame me." Without wasting another moment, they grabbed what supplies they could carry and set off again, this time heading deeper, into the ruins. The ground sloped downward gradually, leading them to a narrow fissure in the frozen landscape. Inside, the air grew colder, and the walls glistened with frost. Strange symbols carved into the stone glowed faintly, illuminating their path. "This place gives me the creeps," Jack muttered, shining his flashlight ahead. The beam revealed twists and turns that seemed to go on forever, creating a labyrinthine network of tunnels. "Stay close," Lana warned. "These structures are unstable. One wrong step, and we could bring the whole thing down on top of us." Despite her caution, they pressed forward, guided by the glowing symbols and occasional flashes of light emanating from cracks in the walls. After what felt like hours, they stumbled upon a massive chamber hidden deep within the tunnels. The room was filled with ancient machinery, its surfaces covered in dust and ice. In the center stood a cylindrical pod, transparent and humming softly with energy. "What is that?" Jack whispered, approaching cautiously. "It looks like some kind of stasis unit," Lana said, studying the controls embedded in the base. "Whoever or whatever is inside, it's been preserved for centuries." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "And you want to wake it up? Are you serious?" "We don't have a choice," Lana snapped. "If Novatech finds this place, they'll take everything, including whatever's in that pod. At least this way, we'll have a fighting chance." Jack exchanged a glance with Ryan, both men silently agreeing that Lana's plan was reckless, but necessary. "Do it," Jack said finally, "but be ready for anything." With trembling hands, Lana entered a series of commands into the console. The hum grew louder, and the pod began to glow brighter. Slowly, the frost coating the glass melted away, revealing the figure inside, a humanoid form clad in sleek metallic armor. Its face was obscured by a reflective visor, but its posture suggested consciousness returning. Then, with a sudden burst of movement, the figure sat upright, cracking open the pod. It stepped out gracefully, its movements fluid and precise. For a moment it simply stood there, observing them with an unreadable expression. "Who, or what are you?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The figure tilted its head as if processing the question. Then, in a voice that resonated like a blend of human speech and mechanical tones, it spoke. "I am Unit X-23, prototype of the Vryns Integration Project." Lana took a step forward, her eyes wide with awe. "Integration Project? You mean merging organic and synthetic life?" "Correct," the unit replied. "I possess knowledge and capabilities beyond your understanding. However, my purpose remains incomplete without guidance." Before anyone could respond, a loud rumble echoed through the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling and the sound of footsteps approached rapidly. Novatech had found them. "We need to go. Now," Ryan shouted, gripping his rifle. Unit X-23 turned toward the tunnel entrance, raising a hand. A shimmering barrier materialized, sealing off the chamber. "This will hold temporarily," it said calmly. "But we must act swiftly." "What do you suggest?" Jack asked, struggling to keep up with the situation. "The artifact holds the key to unlocking my full potential," the unit explained. "Retrieve it, and I will assist you in evading pursuit." Lana hesitated, then nodded. "All right, let's get back to the ruins." With Unit X-23 leading the way, they retraced their steps through the tunnels, moving as fast as possible while avoiding collapse zones. Behind them, the sounds of Novatech forces grew louder, their shouts echoing through the icy corridors. The barrier wouldn't hold forever. When they reached the pedestal where the artifact rested, Jack noticed something new. The crystalline object was pulsing rhythmically, almost as if it recognized Unit X-23's presence. Without hesitation, the unit extended a hand and the artifact floated into its grasp. A surge of energy coursed through the chamber, causing the walls to tremble violently. "What's happening?" Jack yelled, bracing himself against the shaking floor. "The artifact is syncing with my systems," Unit X-23 explained. "Stand by." Moments later, the tremors subsided, and the unit's body glowed with a soft, golden light. When it faded, the figure appeared even more advanced, its armor sleeker and its movements smoother. "Sync complete," it announced. "Prepare for extraction." As Novatech breached the barrier and poured into the ruins, Unit X-23 unleashed a barrage of defensive measures. Energy shields, disorienting pulses, and bursts of light that blinded their pursuers. Under its protection, the group made a break for Shadowhawk, dodging enemy fire and collapsing debris. Once aboard the ship, Ryan wasted no time powering up the engines. "Hold on tight," he barked, slamming the throttle forward. The scout vessel shot skyward, leaving Epsilon 9 and Novatech behind. As they escaped into the void of space, Jack slumped into a seat, exhaustion washing over him. Beside him, Lana stared at Unit X-23, her expression a mix of wonder and unease. Whatever they had unleashed, it was far greater than any of them had anticipated. "So," Jack said weakly, breaking the silence, "what exactly did we just bring on board?" Unit X-23 regarded him coolly. "A catalyst for change," it replied. "Whether humanity is prepared for it remains to be seen." The Shadowhawk hurtled through space, its engines pushing the small scout vessel to its limits. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Jack sat in the co-pilot seat, staring out at the endless expanse of stars as Ryan navigated their course away from Epsilon 9. Behind them, Novatech's ships had given chase briefly before breaking off, likely realizing they couldn't match the speed of the nimble scout vessel. But no one aboard celebrated the temporary reprieve. They all knew it wouldn't last. In the rear compartment, Lana and Unit X-23 were huddled over the artifact, analyzing the data it transmitted. The crystalline object pulsed rhythmically, casting faint reflections across the walls. Its glow seemed softer now, almost serene, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that it held secrets far beyond their understanding. Secrets that could change everything or destroy it. "So," Jack said finally, breaking the silence in the cockpit, "what happens next? We just keep running until Novatech gives up?" Ryan snorted without taking his eyes off the controls. "They won't give up, not when there's something like that on board." He jerked his thumb toward the rear compartment. "We need a plan, and fast." Jack nodded grimly. "Any ideas?" Before Ryan could respond, Lana appeared in the doorway, her face pale but determined. "Unit X-23 has been processing the artifact's data. It contains information about the Vrin's integration project, how they merged organic and synthetic life. If we can decode it fully, we might be able to use that knowledge against Novatech." "Or Novatech could use it to build an army," Jack countered, frowning. "How do we know this isn't going to blow up in our faces?" "We don't," Lana admitted, "but sitting around debating won't help. Every second we waste is Another second for Novatech to catch up. Ryan sighed heavily, rubbing the scar on his jaw. Fine. What's the first step? Lana hesitated, glancing back at Unit X-23, who stood motionless in the corner like a silent sentinel. We need to interface the artifact with the ship's systems. That'll give us access to more computing power and let us analyze the data faster. But it's risky. The artifact's energy output could overload the circuits. Great, Ryan muttered sarcastically. Just what we need, a ticking time bomb strapped to our backs. It's the only way, Lana insisted. If we want answers, and a fighting chance, we have to try. Jack exchanged a glance with Ryan, both men silently weighing the risks. Finally, Jack nodded. All right, let's do it. The process of integrating the artifact with the ship's systems took hours, while Ryan monitored the engine performance and kept watch for any signs of pursuit. Jack and Lana worked together to connect the crystalline object to the main console. Unit X-23 observed silently, occasionally offering technical advice in its calm, mechanical voice. This thing is incredible, Jack murmured as streams of alien code scrolled across the screen. It's like alive, like it's thinking. That's because it is, Lana replied, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The Vryn didn't just create machines, they evolved them. This artifact isn't just a tool, it's part of a larger system designed to learn and adapt. As the integration progressed, the ship began to hum with a new kind of energy. Lights flickered intermittently, and the temperature inside the cabin dropped slightly. Jack shivered, not entirely sure if it was due to the cold or the growing unease in his chest. Suddenly, the console emitted a sharp beep, and the screen displayed a series of symbols unlike anything they'd seen before. What does it mean? Jack asked, leaning closer. It's a message, Lana said, her voice tinged with awe. A warning. A warning about what? Ryan called from the cockpit. Before Lana could answer, Unit X-23 stepped forward, its reflective visor gleaming ominously. The artifact warns of imbalance. The merging of organic and synthetic must be approached with caution. Without harmony, destruction follows. Jack frowned. Harmony? You mean balance between humans and machines? Precisely, the unit replied. The Vryn sought perfection through integration, yet their creations eventually surpassed them. When conflict arose, neither side emerged victorious. The room fell silent as the weight of the words sank in. Humanity had barely scratched the surface of artificial intelligence, and already corporations like Novatech were using it for profit and control. If they unleashed something as powerful as the Vryn's technology without understanding it, the consequences could be catastrophic. We can't let Novatech get their hands on this, Jack said firmly. Not after hearing that. No argument here, Ryan agreed. But how do we stop them? We're outnumbered and outgunned. Lana straightened, her expression hardening. We fight fire with fire. Use the artifact to enhance our capabilities. Specifically, yours, Jack. Mine? Jack blinked in surprise. Why me? You've worked with AI systems longer than anyone else here, Lana explained. Your neural interface makes you uniquely qualified to handle the artifact's energy. With Unit X-23's help, we can amplify your cognitive abilities, giving you access to skills comparable to the Vryn's machines. Jack stared at her, stunned. You want me to merge with this thing? Are you serious? It's dangerous, Lana admitted. But it's also our best shot. Trust me, Jack. I wouldn't suggest this if I thought there was another way. He glanced at Unit X-23, whose presence was both reassuring and unnerving. The unit nodded slightly, as if confirming Lana's words. Your willingness to embrace risk defines humanity's potential, it said. Will you accept? Jack hesitated, torn between fear and determination. On one hand, the idea of tampering with such advanced technology terrified him. On the other, he couldn't deny the thrill of stepping into uncharted territory, of pushing the boundaries of what was possible. After a long pause, he nodded. All right, let's do it. The procedure was unlike anything Jack had ever experienced. Under Lana's guidance, Unit X-23 connected the artifact to Jack's neural interface, creating a direct link between his mind and the alien device. At first, the sensation was subtle, a faint buzzing at the edge of his consciousness. But as the connection deepened, the buzzing grew louder, spreading throughout his body like electricity coursing through his veins. Images flooded his mind, complex diagrams, mathematical equations, and fragments of alien languages. Memories of the Vryn flashed before his eyes, showing glimpses of their civilization at its peak. He saw towering cities filled with hybrid beings, their forms blending seamlessly between organic and synthetic. He felt their triumphs and failures, their hopes and fears. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the flood subsided, leaving him gasping for breath. "Jack!" Lana's voice broke through the haze. "Are you okay?" He blinked, struggling to focus. His thoughts felt sharper, clearer, as if his mind had been upgraded overnight. Colors seemed brighter, sounds more distinct. Even the hum of the ship's engines resonated differently, carrying nuances he'd never noticed before. "I'm fine," he managed to say, though his voice sounded distant even to himself. "I think you've successfully integrated with the artifact," Unit X-23 announced. "Your cognitive functions are now enhanced. Proceed with caution." Ryan whistled low under his breath. "Well, you definitely look different. Kinda creepy, actually." Jack ignored the comment, focusing instead on the newfound clarity in his mind. He could feel the artifact's presence lingering at the edges of his consciousness, a constant reminder of the power and responsibility he now carried. "What can I do?" he asked, turning to Lana. She smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed a hint of worry. "Let's start by testing your abilities. Try accessing the ship's systems directly through your interface." Jack closed his eyes, concentrating. Within moments, he felt a surge of connection, not just to the ship, but to every piece of technology aboard. He could sense the flow of energy through the circuits, pinpoint weaknesses in the hull, and even predict potential malfunctions before they occurred. It was overwhelming yet exhilarating. "This is insane," he whispered, opening his eyes. "I can see everything." "And soon, you'll be able to control it," Lana said. "With practice, you'll be able to manipulate the artifact's energy to create barriers, disrupt enemy systems, and even cloak the ship." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Sounds useful. But will it be enough to take on Novatech?" "It'll have to be," Jack replied, his voice steadier now. "Because I'm not letting them win." Hours later, as the Shadowhawk drifted through the void, the group prepared for the inevitable showdown. Novatech wouldn't stop until they recovered the artifact, and Unit X-23 made it clear that surrender wasn't an option. "They view us as threats to their dominance," the unit explained. "Elimination will be their priority." "Then, we make sure they regret picking this fight," Ryan said, checking his rifle. "We've got one advantage they don't. Jack." Jack nodded, flexing his fingers as he tested the limits of his enhanced abilities. For the first time in his life, he felt truly capable of making a difference. Whether it was enough remained to be seen, but he was ready to find out. As the ship continued its journey, the artifact pulsed softly in the background, a constant reminder of the stakes. Harmony or destruction, it was up to them to decide. The Shadowhawk drifted silently through the vastness of space, its crew preparing for what lay ahead. Jack sat in the co-pilot seat, his mind racing as he tested the limits of his newfound abilities. The artifact's energy coursed through him like a second heartbeat, amplifying his thoughts and sharpening his senses. He could feel the ship's systems humming beneath his fingertips, each circuit and wire an extension of his own body. It was exhilarating, but also terrifying. Lana paced nervously behind him, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. She had spent hours analyzing the artifact's data, trying to anticipate Novatech's next move. "They'll be coming soon," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Probably within the hour." Ryan glanced over his shoulder from the pilot's seat, his expression grim. "And when they do, we'd better be ready. Jack, how are you holding up?" Jack hesitated before answering. "I'm adjusting." This is a lot to process, but I think I can handle it. You'd better, Ryan replied bluntly. Because if this plan doesn't work, we're all dead. Lana shot Ryan a sharp look. That's not helping. It's the truth, Ryan shot back. We need to face facts. Novatech isn't going to pull any punches, and neither should we. Jack nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the situation. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of options. But thanks to the artifact and Unit X-23, they had one advantage: unpredictability. If Jack could harness the artifact's power effectively, they might stand a chance. All right, Lana said, taking a deep breath. Here's the plan. We'll use the artifact to create a diversion, something big enough to distract Novatech while we slip away. Jack, you'll need to focus on manipulating their sensors and disabling their weapon systems remotely. Ryan, you'll cover us with whatever firepower we've got left, and I'll stay on comms coordinating everything. What about Unit X-23? Jack asked, glancing at the silent figure standing near the rear of the cabin. The unit will act as our failsafe, Lana explained. If things go south, it can deploy countermeasures to buy us time. Unit X-23 tilted its head slightly, its reflective visor gleaming in the dim light. Affirmative. My primary directive is to ensure your survival. Good to know, Ryan muttered under his breath. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. As predicted, Novatech arrived within the hour. Their fleet consisted of 3 heavily armed cruisers, each bristling with turrets and missile launchers. The ship surrounded the Shadowhawk, cutting off any possible escape routes. A transmission crackled through the comm system, and a cold, authoritative voice filled the cabin. This is Commander Alex Grant of Novatech Security Division. Surrender immediately, or we will open fire. Ryan rolled his eyes. Yeah, right, like that's gonna happen. Stay calm, Lana whispered, typing furiously on her tablet. Jack, it's time. Jack closed his eyes, focusing on the connection between his mind and the artifact. He could feel its energy pulsing steadily, waiting for his command. Slowly, he reached out, extending his consciousness toward the enemy ships. At first, the barrier between them felt impenetrable, but as he pushed harder, cracks began to form. Data streams flooded into his mind. Ship schematics, targeting systems, shield frequencies. It was overwhelming, but he forced himself to concentrate. Got it, he murmured, opening his eyes. Their shields are down on the port side of the lead cruiser. That's our opening. Ryan grinned wolfishly. Perfect. Let's give them something to remember. With a flick of his wrist, Jack sent a surge of energy through the artifact, creating a massive electromagnetic pulse, EMP, that rippled outward in a blinding flash of light. The pulse disabled several key systems aboard the Novatech vessels, sending them spiraling momentarily out of control. Alarms blared across the enemy fleet, and chaos erupted as crew members scrambled to regain stability. Nice work, Lana said, her voice tight with urgency. Now let's get out of here before they recover. Ryan didn't need to be told twice. He slammed the throttle forward, sending the Shadowhawk hurtling toward the gap in the enemy formation. Laser fire streaked past them, narrowly missing the hull as they darted through the debris field. Jack clenched his teeth, focusing on maintaining the EMP barrier around the ship to prevent further attacks. But Novatech wasn't so easily deterred. Within minutes, their systems came back online, and the pursuit resumed with renewed intensity. Missiles streaked toward them, forcing Ryan to perform evasive maneuvers that left everyone clinging to their seats. We can't keep this up forever, Ryan shouted, swerving sharply to avoid another volley of fire. I know, Jack replied, sweat dripping down his forehead. The strain of channeling the artifact's energy was beginning to take its toll. His vision blurred, and his muscles ached as if he'd been running a marathon. Just give me a minute. Unit X-23 stepped forward, raising a hand. A shimmering force field materialized around the Shadowhawk, deflecting incoming projectiles and buying them precious seconds. Proceed with haste, the unit said calmly. My reserves are limited. Copy that, Lana said, her fingers flying over the console. I'm rerouting auxiliary power to the engines. Hold on tight. The ship surged forward, its engines roaring as they pushed beyond their usual limits. For a brief moment, it seemed like they might actually make it. But then a massive explosion rocked the cabin, throwing everyone off balance. Smoke filled the air and warning lights flashed across the dashboard. "What the hell was that?" Jack yelled, struggling to regain his footing. "One of their missiles hit the aft section," Ryan growled, wrestling with the controls. "We've lost maneuverability. We're sitting ducks." "No!" Lana shouted, frantically working to stabilize the damage. "There has to be a way." Before she could finish, the artifact pulsed violently, flooding the cabin with blinding light. Jack felt a surge of energy course through him, stronger than anything he'd experienced before. Images flashed through his mind. Alien landscapes, hybrid beings, and fragments of code written in an incomprehensible language. Then, with a sudden clarity, he understood. "The artifact wants us to merge fully," he said, his voice trembling. "It's offering us a choice to become something greater." "What does that mean?" Ryan demanded, panic creeping into his tone. "It means we stop fighting separately and start acting as one," Jack replied. "If I integrate completely with the artifact and bring all of you along, we'll have access to its full potential. But it's risky. There's no telling what it'll do to us." Lana stared at him, her expression unreadable. "Do it." "Are you sure?" Jack asked, searching her face for doubt. "There's no other way," she said firmly. "We're out of options." Ryan hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "All right, let's do it. Just don't screw this up." Taking a deep breath, Jack reached out mentally, drawing the artifact's energy inward. He could feel it spreading through the ship, enveloping everyone inside its glow. For a moment, there was nothing but light and sound, a symphony of voices, both human and machine blending together in perfect harmony. When the light faded, the world looked different. Jack could see every detail of the ship, every movement of his companions, every particle of dust floating in the air. He could feel their thoughts, their emotions, their fears, all intertwined with his own. They weren't just individuals anymore. They were part of something larger. "Is everyone okay?" he asked tentatively, his voice echoing strangely in his ears. Lana nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. I think so. This feels incredible." Ryan flexed his hands experimentally, a grin spreading across his face. "Well, I'll be damned. Feels like I could punch through a starship." Unit X-23 remained silent, its presence now indistinguishable from the rest of them. Together, they formed a single entity, humanity and machine united for the first time. Outside, Novatech's ships closed in, their weapons primed for the final strike. But this time, the Shadowhawk didn't run. Instead, it turned to face them head-on, glowing with an otherworldly light. "Let's show them what happens when they mess with us," Jack said, his voice steady and confident. With a collective effort, the merged consciousness unleashed the artifact's full power. Beams of energy shot outward, slicing through Novatech's fleet like paper. Shields collapsed, hulls crumbled, and engines sputtered as the enemy ships were reduced to drifting, wreckage. When the battle ended, silence fell over the void of space. The Shadowhawk floated amidst the debris, its crew still connected by the artifact's energy. Jack exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of what they'd accomplished and what they'd become. "We did it," Lana whispered, awe evident in her voice. "But at what cost?" Jack didn't answer. He couldn't. Deep down, he knew the artifact had changed them in ways they couldn't yet understand. They had crossed a threshold, stepping into a future where humanity and technology were no longer separate. Whether it was a blessing or a curse remained to be seen. As the ship drifted onward, the artifact pulsed softly in the background, a constant reminder of the path they had chosen and the responsibilities that came with it. The aftermath of the battle left the crew of the Shadowhawk in a strange limbo. The ship drifted silently through space, surrounded by the wreckage of Novatech's fleet. The artifact pulsed softly, its light casting faint reflections on the walls of the cabin. Though they had won, there was no celebration, only an uneasy silence as each member processed what had happened. Jack sat in the co-pilot's seat, staring at his hands. They looked the same, but he could feel the difference. The artifact's energy still coursed through him, connecting him to the others in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. It wasn't just his mind that had changed, it was his very sense of self. He could feel Lana's determination, Ryan's cautious optimism, and even the quiet presence of Unit X-23, all intertwined with his own thoughts. It was overwhelming, yet strangely comforting. Lana leaned against the wall, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She had been the one to push for this merger, but now she seemed unsure. "What have we done?" She murmured more to herself than anyone else. "We survived," Ryan replied gruffly, though his usual bravado was noticeably absent. "That's what matters." "But at what cost?" Lana pressed, her voice rising slightly. "We're not the same people we were before. We've merged, changed. Is this really who we want to be?" Jack turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. "I don't think any of us chose this because we wanted to stay the same. We did it because we had to. Because if we hadn't, Novatech would have taken the artifact and used it however they saw fit. And now we're the ones with the power," Lana said bitterly. "How is that any better?" "It's better because we know what's at stake," Jack countered. "Because we understand the consequences of misusing it. Novatech wouldn't have cared about balance or harmony. They'd have torn it apart for profit." Ryan nodded slowly. "He's right. This isn't about us anymore. It's about making sure something like this doesn't fall into the wrong hands again." Unit X-23 stepped forward, its reflective visor gleaming faintly in the dim light. "Your concerns are valid. Integration carries risks, both for individuals and civilizations. However, the potential for progress outweighs the dangers, if wielded responsibly." "Responsibly," Lana repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "That's the key, isn't it, whether humanity is ready for this kind of power?" Jack sighed, rubbing his temples. "Maybe we're not ready, but we can't unlearn what we've learned. All we can do is try to use it wisely." As the days passed, the crew worked together to stabilize the artifact's energy and integrate its systems further into the Shadowhawk. Each of them adapted differently to their new connection. Jack found himself increasingly attuned to the ship's mechanics, able to anticipate problems before they arose. Lana focused on decoding the artifact's data, uncovering fragments of the Vrin's history and their experiments with hybrid lifeforms. Ryan, meanwhile, honed his combat skills, using the artifact's enhancements to become a more precise and effective fighter. Despite their growing abilities, tensions simmered beneath the surface. The merging process had blurred the lines between their individual identities, leaving them questioning where one person ended and another began. At times, Jack felt disconnected from his emotions, as if the artifact's influence had stripped away part of his humanity. Other times, he felt hyper-aware of his companion's feelings, almost to the point of intrusion. One evening, as the ship floated near a distant nebula, the group gathered in the main cabin to discuss their next move. The artifact rested on the central table, its glow pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. "So what now?" Ryan asked, breaking the silence. "Do we head back to human space? Or keep running?" "We can't go back," Lana said firmly. "Not yet. If word gets out about what we've done, or what the artifact can do, it'll start a war. Governments and corporations will stop at nothing to get their hands on it." "Then where do we go?" Jack asked, leaning forward. "We can't just drift forever." Lana hesitated, glancing at the artifact. "We find a place to hide. Somewhere remote, where no one will look for us. A place where we can figure out how to handle this responsibly." "Sounds risky," Ryan muttered. "But I don't see another option." Unit X-23 tilted its head slightly. "There exists a location within this sector, a sanctuary utilized by the Vrin during their final days. It may provide the refuge you seek." "A sanctuary?" Jack echoed, intrigued. "Where is it?" "The coordinates are embedded within the artifact's memory," the unit replied. "However, reaching it will require navigating hazardous terrain and evading detection." "Great. Ryan said dryly. Another suicide mission. It's our best chance, Lana insisted. If the Vryn built it, it might hold answers about their integration project, and maybe even clues about how to reverse the changes if we decide that's necessary. Jack nodded slowly. All right, let's do it. The journey to the Vryn sanctuary was fraught with challenges. The artifact guided them through asteroid fields, radiation zones, and pockets of unstable space-time. Along the way, the crew continued to adapt to their shared consciousness, learning to navigate the delicate balance between individuality and unity. It wasn't easy. There were moments of frustration, fear, and doubt, but they persevered, driven by the knowledge that they were carrying something far greater than themselves. When they finally reached the sanctuary, it took their breath away. Nestled within a ring of shattered moons, the structure resembled a massive sphere made of translucent crystal. Its surface shimmered with iridescent colors, reflecting the light of a nearby star. As the Shadowhawk approached, the sphere opened, like a flower, revealing a docking bay inside. "This is it," Lana whispered, awe evident in her voice. "This is where the Vryn made their last stand." Inside, the sanctuary was a labyrinth of glowing corridors and vast chambers filled with ancient machinery. Holographic displays flickered to life as they explored, showing scenes of the Vryn's achievements and their downfall. Jack felt a pang of sadness as he watched the images unfold. Despite their brilliance, the Vryn had ultimately failed to achieve true harmony between organic and synthetic life. Their creations had surpassed them, leading to conflict and eventual extinction. In the heart of the sanctuary, they discovered a chamber containing a pedestal similar to the one on Epsilon 9. Resting atop it was another crystalline object, smaller but equally radiant. The artifact reacted instantly, floating toward it and merging seamlessly. A surge of energy filled the room, causing the walls to pulse with light. "What's happening?" Jack asked, shielding his eyes. "The artifacts are sinking," Unit X-23 explained, completing the cycle begun by the Vryn. As the light faded, the chamber transformed. The walls became transparent, revealing a panoramic view of the cosmos. Streams of data flowed around them, forming intricate patterns that represented the interconnectedness of all things. "This is their legacy," Lana said softly. "Their vision of unity. Not domination, but coexistence." Jack nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Then it's up to us to honor it." Weeks turned into months as the crew settled into the sanctuary, studying the artifacts and refining their understanding of the Vryn's technology. They debated long and hard about whether to share their discoveries with humanity, knowing the risks involved. In the end, they decided to wait, to ensure they fully grasped the implications before taking such a step. Through it all, Jack remained acutely aware of the changes within himself. He had gained incredible abilities, but he had also lost pieces of who he once was. Yet he didn't regret his decision. For the first time in his life, he felt truly connected to others, to the universe, and to the endless possibilities of the future. One day, as he stood gazing out at the stars, Lana joined him. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't found the artifact?" she asked quietly. "All the time," Jack admitted. "But then I remember why we did it. To protect humanity. From itself, if necessary." Lana smiled faintly. "You've come a long way since EOS 7. "So have you," Jack replied. "We all have." As they stood side by side, the sanctuary hummed softly around them, a testament to the fragile balance between creation and destruction, ambition and restraint. They had chosen the path of responsibility, knowing full well the weight of their decision. And though the road ahead was uncertain, they faced it together, united by a bond stronger than any force in the universe.